Rise, renew, reconnect. Welcome to From the Ashes, a podcast where bold conversations empower healing and authentic, vibrant living. I'm your host, Valerie Huang Beck, and I'm on a mission to evolve the dialogue that moves humanity harmoniously forward.
And the fire in the darkest night, the phoenix burns. It's ready for flight. Shadows may come, try to tear you apart, but you're the flame.
All right. Welcome to From the Ashes. I'm your host, Valerie Huang Beck, and today I'm here to kick off season 4. So, believe it or not, I've made it to 60-something episodes of this podcast, about 2 years in the making, and it's been a journey, and I've learned a lot. So today, I'm going to set the intention for season 4 and for 2026. It is now January of 2026, and I am feeling also a shift in a way of being. And last year, I came up with a word of the year, which was unapologetic, and it anchored my entire year. Living unapologetically led me to some great adventures, bold moves, and lessons learned. So for this year, the word of the year is intention. I move with the utmost intention. That is my anchor statement. And with that, I'm also moving this podcast with the utmost intention. The theme of this season is going to be bold conversations and evolutionary dialogue. What I've learned from doing 3 seasons of this podcast is that I am looking to create a very specific experience. The podcast doesn't exist because I'm trying to promote my business. It doesn't exist because I'm trying to promote other people's businesses or projects. It exists for us to have bold conversations that are meant to be listened to and to move forward evolutionary dialogue. Now, what do I mean by evolutionary dialogue? I mean dialogue, back and forth, conversations with deep listening that are not had for the sake of repeating a mission or belief or conviction, but evolving it and evolving it together in conversation, in discussion, so that both of us, me as the interviewer and they as the interviewee, walk away from this conversation changed, inspired, and perhaps ready to do something differently, to do something better, to move things forward in our own lives so that there's a ripple effect with these conversations that starts from us. And then you as listeners, if you feel inspired and moved to create changes in your own life, well, then that's even better, right? That way our ripple effect can become exponentially larger, and it doesn't have to, knowing that the conversation in itself was already progressive and transformational. So the more that I do these podcasts, the more that I realize that, this serves a really specific purpose. And so I want to interview specific people that I feel deep connection with, that I know that I want to dig deeper in with, that I know are going to be authentic. And they're also going to have the sense of being able to go back and forth with me. So I am inviting people who want to challenge the status quo, who want to challenge dogma and doctrine in order for us to learn and embody better ways of moving forward as humanity. There are many things to be learned from the past. But one of the things that we also need to cultivate as we learn from the past is self-knowledge and self-awareness. And that doesn't come from blindly following what has been done in the past just because it has been done that way. We want to know the why behind it. And so, for those who are willing to dig deeper and talk about that very harrowing and often challenging process, I want to invite onto this podcast. I am going to be talking with people who have missions, personal missions beyond status, success, and wealth. People who are not only here to prove that they can do something, but that they are here with a deeper sense of mission, with a deeper sense of purpose. And we want to learn from those people because oftentimes it's taken a lot of heartbreak. It's taken challenging limiting beliefs, and it's taken a lot of growth and maturity to embrace a mission that is often against the status quo. I'm going to be talking with people who are living life on radically unique terms. One of the biggest lessons that I have learned in this year is that if I do truly want to live a life that's true to me, and if I were to be truly honest with what I want, it is different. It can be radically mundane. It's not glorious. And at the same time, it's challenging. It's rule breaking. And people will question you when you decide that you want to go off and do your own thing and own your path. Because it takes courage, it takes bravery, and it takes being different. And so I want to also invite people who are being bravely different to talk about their lives, to talk about how they have done it, the challenges that they face, and why it's worth it. I wrote down the 3 books that really changed my life in 2025 because I also want to spread ideas that have allowed me to embrace the courage that I need to make the decisions that are going to push my life in the direction that I want to take it. So the first book that changed my life in 2025 was This Is Strategy by Seth Godin. And even though Seth Godin is a marketing expert and a strategist, this book was philosophical for me. And it starts with the idea that strategy is the philosophy of becoming. And so it gives us little bites, stories, and parables where we can think for ourselves of how it applies to our life, how strategy can help us make our desires and goals come true, our projects, our businesses, anything that requires a system. And I realized that intention and strategy are both necessary in order for us to realize some of these really big, audacious goals. The second book that changed my life in 2025 was the book Useful Not True by Derek Sivers. And I really have grown to love the very unique persona that is Derek Sivers. Discovered who he was on the Tim Ferriss podcast. And this man lives life unapologetically himself and has chosen to break as many norms as he could possibly do, including building himself a hut in rural New Zealand to live with his son, and also get rid of his US citizenship, which is a pretty risky and often can be a pretty regretful move for some. But just the intentionality in which he makes his choices and the way that he thinks and the way that he writes about culture and looking beyond culture, zooming out and really challenging what we think is true, but is in fact just a construct, can be a really mind-breaking, but also very revelatory exercise. The third book that changed my life in 2025, and perhaps my favorite, was one that I actually found through Derek Siver's website, and it was the book The Courage to Be Disliked by Fumitake Koga and Ichiro Kishimi. And this book is a dialogue between a teacher and student, or philosopher and inquirer. And I have talked about this book previously on this podcast because it looks at all human suffering and struggle as relational. And one of the missing pieces for me in my many years of study of holistic medicine and wellness is the emphasis on relationship and how so much of what we get caught up in often is because of our perceived relationship with others and how that affects our relationship also with ourselves. We as human beings desperately do so much to keep up with the Joneses. We desperately do so much to do what we perceive as what we need to do in order to keep other people happy, to meet expectations, and to keep ourselves ultimately safe. That we forget that these reactions to our perceived reality are reactions. And that if we were to shift our mind a little bit, to open our mind enough to take some more risk, to risk being disliked, to risk being different, we might actually find a path to real happiness. So those are the three books that changed my life in 2025. And I want to continue this train of thought because without intention, there can really be no change. We are socialized to neglect our emotional and physical needs. Socialized to the point where it is normal for us to not get sleep, to not feel rested, to not allow ourselves to rest, to neglect our relationships that actually help us in our day-to-day to feel supported. And we are socialized to prioritize and chase instead capital gain, fame, and status instead of fulfillment. We are socialized to consume rather than create. We are socialized to scroll, to troll, to cancel, rather than engage, debate, and cooperate. We're socialized to depend on authority and institutions and gurus to tell us what's wrong with our minds and bodies, and to outsource our well-being to so-called experts, tests, diagnoses, and pharmaceuticals. And we are socialized to relinquish control. We are socialized to believe that we cannot trust ourselves. And it takes enormous intention to go against the grain and live against the status quo. It takes cultivating discernment, and it takes making the effort to know yourself, which means knowing your strengths, weaknesses, fears, and deeper desires. So this year, I want to invite you to be a little bolder, a little riskier, and a little bit more rebellious. To have the courage to say that your life matters because it is yours, and that your desires matter because they are yours. 2026 is the year you get to be vibrant, bold, and thriving, if you let it be your intention to make it so. So with all that being said, I want to give you a little bit of a sneak peek into our first interview of 2026. Next week, I'm going to be releasing my episode with the great Asia Dorsey. She is a powerhouse, and she's the founder of Bones, Bugs, and Botany. And She is a living example of someone who has gone radically down the path of self-empowerment, healing, and has really gone against the grain in terms of listening to her body and following her knowing and being willing to radically shift direction. I met Asia at the Colorama conference last year, and amongst many other also great minds, she's one that I thought just really stood out in being a voice of contrast and being a voice of conviction. So we're going to kick off the season with her. Thanks for tuning in today. And I can't wait to grow with you this 2026. Let's live this year with intention. I'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in to From the Ashes. If this episode sparked something in you, remember, your evolution matters, and we're rooting for you every step of the way. For coaching, community, and free resources to help you rise into your full potential, visit thevibrantvisionary.com and download the Vibrant Visionary Blueprint, your free guide to reclaim your energy, clarity, and creative fire. If you love this episode, please share it with a friend or tag me, Valerie, on Instagram at vibrantvisionary.val. I'd love to hear what resonated for you. Until next time, keep rising.